What's up, everybody, and welcome to your Wednesday edition of Pelicans Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. I'm your host, David Grubb, editor-in-chief of thebirdrights.com. And the New Orleans Pelicans took another loss on Tuesday night, this time falling to the Brooklyn Nets, 119 to 114. Pelicans get swept by the Nets this season. A tough loss for the Pels, who competed hard, gave up one of the worst defensive quarters of the season, and that's the thing for this Pelicans team. Ultimately, is a lot of this year is going to be remembered for the lack of defense. Ultimately, for this team, and just one of the worst defensive teams that the franchise has ever put together. And injuries certainly had a lot to do with that. Also, this was the 44th different lineup by Willie Green, a franchise record for the most lineups used in a season. But still, that third quarter performance by the Pelicans, again, this is not the Brooklyn Nets starters, and the Nets weren't a good team when their starters were healthy. But to give up 43 points in the third quarter to this Nets team just shows you how far this team has to go defensively. And I think that's one of the big takeaways that you get from this group over and over again is just that defensively they are not good for a number of reasons. Communication is not there. You have a lot of young players who have not played NBA caliber defense, who have not played together for significant stretches, and they are just not doing well when they are on the floor. They give up too many shots. In particular, you can always score against the Pelicans in the paint at a high clip. They give up a really high percentage around the basket. So that's always a problem. And then usually the problem is the Pelicans have a deficit from 3-point range this season, and they give up good looks. Now, the Pelicans have given up looks from three because look, in basketball, you're going to give up one thing or the other. Either you're going to be better at protecting the paint and allowing the three, or you're going to shut down the three and have a bit more of a struggle protecting the paint. And last year, when the Pelicans were in the top 10 in defense, they did a really good job of shutting down the paint and then closing out on 3-point shooters and forcing them to miss. This year, shooters are not missing as often, and teams are shooting a high percentage against the Pelicans from three. Brooklyn shot 42.5% against the Pelicans on Tuesday night, made 17 threes. The Pelicans are shooting a better percentage lately. They shot 36% from three, which isn't bad, but the problem is they still only made 12, and they only took 33. Those attempts have to get it somewhere around 35. It's not the 40 that Willie Green has preached about, but I think that when you try to establish 40 as a baseline, what you're saying is we have to get our attempts up. And the Pelicans still consistently fail to get their attempts high enough, especially for bad teams. The equalizer for bad teams in the NBA and in college basketball too, to a degree, is a 3-point shot. It's called the great equalizer for that reason, is that teams with lesser talent can compete because they are making more points on the 3-point shot. The Pelicans don't take enough or make enough for that to be impactful enough on a nightly basis. And that's a problem for them. It remains a problem for them. I think when you look at the records of the top teams in the league, percentage is always going to be high for 3-point makes. That's number one. The attempts will vary for those teams, but the percentages will be high. And it's not just because you have a lot of shooters. And I think that's where fans just think, oh, well, we need to stockpile and go out and get more shooters. Certainly, you always want to have people who can shoot the basketball on the roster. But what you'll find is certainly most players will get better with their shooting as they practice it throughout the course of their careers. But what you want is an offense that creates good shots. You want an offense that prioritizes getting good 3-point shots. So where are your threes coming from? Predominantly, you want those coming from the corner. You want those coming from the wings, not straight on, but those wings and the corner threes are usually the ones you want because they come out of passes. That's what you look like is the ball is swung to that shooter and they have an open look. And so if your offense is not generating those kind of looks, your 3-point percentage is going to be a little bit of a struggle because you're taking them to get the numbers up in particular, but you're not taking great shots. And that's what you see more often than not with the Pelicans is that they end up, if they do take them, they're not great threes. They don't take a lot of corner threes. That's something that if you've watched me for years now, it's something that I've talked about with this Pelicans team is that habitually, year in and year out, the Pelicans lag behind other teams when it comes to shooting corner threes. And why is that important? Because the corner three is the easiest of the 3-point shots. The percentage is higher. It's shorter because it's in that corner on that short porch, and it's a dead on shot. So it tends to be an easier shot for players and for teams. The Pelicans don't generate a lot of those looks, and that to me is a problem. Um, Otherwise, it was a solid game. Again, if your goal was to see the Pelicans play a close game, see some you know good moments out of rookie players, um, I think it just then you got what you were looking for. So I think that's where you can be happy with that. You can the Pelicans gave fans a game that was close. They gave a game where the players who you've wanted to see over the last several weeks, um, they've been given an opportunity to play and they got to compete. But ultimately, another loss for the Pelicans, who will be back in action on Thursday against the Milwaukee Bucks to close out that series. So we'll see what happens there. The Pelicans did get good performances out of their 2 point guards. Jose Alvarado, who was supposed to be injured and almost missed this game, did end up competing in a sore hip. Jose had 16 points, 4 assists in this one, 3 of 7 from 3-point range. Again, the big development for Jose this season has been his 3-point shot. He's been hanging around 40% for the majority of the season. And for him, that's a huge development because Jose is not going to end up being a starter in the NBA. That's just not his role. The Pelicans know it. He knows it. His role is to be a very good backup point guard. And for the Pelicans, he continues to provide them what they've asked for him to do. When you ask him to run the as a starter, he takes shots. He's aggressive. He doesn't back off and just become a distributor. He continues to take shots. He took 11 shots against the Nets. Coming off an injury, I think that's a good amount for him to end up with 16 points. I think that's where you want Jose to be. So you're happy with that as far as him, and he only played 23 minutes in a game that ended up being a 5-point game. We've talked about Jose's limit being right around 25 minutes, and I think that the Pelicans did a good job of handling that for him. Um, his role and his value is something that people will debate constantly. And as we go into the offseason, there'll be discussions whether or not Jose should be included in trade discussions. And I think you trade Jose if you find a great deal that significantly upgrades your team. If you're just moving parts, then you're just filling out roster spots. I think there are intangibles that you could give up if you give away a guy like Jose Alvarado. I think that his value to this roster, the intangibles as far as his leadership. He's a guy who will fight. He's a guy who does bring energy every night. He is a competitor. You don't have a lot of those, and you gave up a bunch of those this past offseason, and I think you're still feeling the impact of that. So to give up another one, if you give away Jose Alvarado, know that you're giving away one of the guys on your team who does play really hard and who does have a bit of an edge. And I think that's what people for this Pelicans team, that's why they've embraced him. It's kind of also why you embraced a guy like Najee Marshall. You want guys who are going to compete and fight, like in the real sense of the word, not just in the sports sense, but like, hey, this means something to me, and I'm going to stand up and I'm protect my teammates. And I think Jose, even as the smallest guy on the court, has given you the impression that he will, physically interact with other teams if he feels like he's not getting what he's due. He's not getting the respect that he's due. He's not getting the calls that he's due. He's not getting treatment as he's due. And I think that fans want to see more of that out of the New Orleans Pelicans. They want to see a team that fights for itself and fights for each other. Um, the other guy, Elfrid Payton, another 10 assist performance for Elfrid, and that continues to be what his game is going to be about. He assists and he gets good rebounds at his size. 6 rebounds for Elfrid in this game, but only 3 points, and all from the free throw line. 0 for 3 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3-point range. You cannot, like, as much as people want to see Elfrid come back next year, and if he does on a minimum contract, fine. But I can't see you dedicating a lot of funds to Elfrid Payton because he will not score. He just won't do it. And, you know, especially when you're playing against substandard starting lineups. The Nets did not send out their best on Tuesday night. And for Elfrid to not score Yes, he did a good job against a second unit, but you've got to be a threat with the ball in your hands. You've got to be somebody that teams are worried about offensively, not just for your passing, but for your ability to score the basketball. And Elfrid struggles with finishes. He struggles with floaters. He struggles with 3-point shots. He's not a jump shooter. So it's like, what does he do well as far as scoring? There's not much. He's not a great free throw shooter either. So I think that's the reason that he is not stuck around in the NBA, does not have a job currently other than getting these 10 days with the Pelicans. It's because of his lack of as a threat, as an offensive player. And that is going to be a problem going forward. It's not a problem right now because the Pelicans need a point guard and he's doing that job. But I think any long term prospects of bringing him back next year, you can wait. Like, you don't have to go out and sign him right now because I think he'll still be available because teams are not looking for 30-year-old point guards who can't shoot. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the fact. Teams are not going out beating down the doors of 30-year-old point guards who can't shoot the basketball. Can he run an offense? He absolutely can. Can he create for other people? We've seen it. He's got more double figure assist games than anybody else on the roster. He's barely played this season, but he's not able to score the basketball, and that is a big problem. But the Pelicans, I mean, you could argue that they've gotten more effective play out of this point guard tandem lately than they were getting at the beginning of the year with DeJounte Murray and Jose as the one and the two. So there are a number of reasons for that. DeJounte, but for whatever reason, DeJounte did not adapt well his first season in New Orleans. And you can talk about the broken hand, but the broken hand was not um, a factor. It was his left hand. It wasn't his shooting hand. So I don't know why his shooting was so poor. DeJounte shot below 30% from 3-point range. DeJounte shot it poorly on a night basis. He turned the ball over consistently. He was not a great defender this season. So a very bad year for DeJounte Murray. The Pelicans are going to need him whenever he does return. Whenever he does return, to play much better. He doesn't have to play like an all-star, though you would like him to play like an all-star, certainly. But he needs to be the lead guard. And I think the one thing that you can't deny about Jose Alvarado when he's on the floor, and you can't deny about Elfrid Payton to a lesser degree, is that they control the offenses when they have the basketball. And I don't know if you saw DeJounte Murray really assert himself as the lead guard of this team, if you saw him take over on the court on a night to night basis. This wasn't his team. And I thought that the opportunity was there because of the injuries for DeJounte Murray to seize the personality of the team to take over. And though there are guys on the team who swore by him and said they learned from him this season, on the court, you just didn't see that type of impact. So I think there's the big difference is like if you're DeJounte Murray and you've watched this team this year, and I know he's been away from the team for a long time, but if you watch them, I think there are always things that you can still learn in your career. And if I'm watching, the thing that I learned from watching the Pelicans this year is that I need to be more vocal and I need to take control of this team. I need to be responsible for how they play on the floor. And I think that's the big thing that DeJounte Murray can take away going into his second year with the New Orleans Pelicans this offseason. The rookies had another good night in this one. Antonio Reeves, once again, led the team in scoring. He and Carlo Makovich tied for the team lead in scoring with 17 points. Antonio didn't shoot it as well as he has over the course of the season, but he still made 4 of his 10 3-pointers, so 40% from beyond the arc there. 3 for 3 at the free throw line. That's good. Um, 2 steals on the night, so good job defensively there, and only 1 turnover, which was an upgrade from the night before, where he had 23 on Sunday, had 23 points on Sunday night, but he did have 4 turnovers, only 1 turnover in 30 minutes against Brooklyn. That's good. I think Antonio again continues to show he makes his shots 4 of 10 from three. Not a great night, but still, when you're staying above 40% on a volume shooting night, that's a good night for him. Um, Carlo, offensively, again, I don't think that there's any criticism really of Carlo's game offensively. He needs to become a more consistent 3-point shooter, certainly, and that will hopefully come with time. He remains an efficient scorer, 8 for 11 from the field against the Nets. Uh, and a decent enough rebounder, and he had 2 blocks as well. One really impressive block that led to points in transition for the Pelicans. But the turnovers remain high, 3 turnovers for Carlo, and defensively, again, if you want to score on Carlo, you can. Like that's the real thing. He just is not a good individual defender. He's not a good team defender. But offensively, a very good night for him. Uh, Yves Misi, an okay night. Not one of his best. 9 points, 5 rebounds for him. No block shots. Kind of just didn't really make himself his presence felt. Keon Brooks, 14 points, 4 of 6 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3-point range, 5 for 5 at the free throw line, 5 rebounds for him, and a block. So he continues to impress as well in that Najee Marshall type role. So you're getting, again, good games from the rookies, all showing their worth, and I think all making their cases that next season there should be something for them there should be plans for them to play. I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl, just you don't need him to return next season. You don't need Jamal Cain to return next season. He can go back to the G League and develop. Lester Quinones, another guy that can go back to the G League and develop. If they get other opportunities, so be it. But they're just not really ready to contribute consistently on NBA rosters. So if those three guys are gone, and you're bringing back, Kyler Kelly won't be on the roster next year, as well, a guy who has not even seen a minute of action yet, though he was brought up on these 10-day contracts. He's not even touched the floor. So if he's not playing, again, that's 4 spots off the roster right there. So you're bringing back Zion Williamson into the rotation, C.J. McCollum into the rotation, Herb Jones, um, Trey Murphy, and DeJounte Murray. Those 5 names back into the rotation. Some of these guys are going to go. And I think the guys most likely to leave, your Bruce Brown, I just don't, unless financially, it's a really good deal. And Bruce had a decent game, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3-point range. Decent game, but I just don't see the value in bringing back Bruce Brown. He's not going to be the guy who gets this team over next year, because you're going to be relying on your healthy players, and you're going to need to get um, a higher level of talent for whomever you do get in the offseason than what you're going to get from Bruce Brown. And financially, if he's asking for anything near what he made this year, it just doesn't make sense. You're going to have to get a severe discount if he wants to come back on the roster. But otherwise, you have some young players that at least you can be encouraged about at the back end of your rotation. None of them are going to be starters next year, except for maybe Eves again. And if he does, you feel at least comfortable in knowing that Eves has started more than 60 games as a rookie. You feel comfortable in knowing that he understands what it takes to get through an NBA season, and that he has some NBA level skills, though he needs to develop others. But overall, you have to be impressed with the level of talent in this year's rookie class. It is not overwhelming. It is not, franchise shifting. But I think, considering where the Pelicans drafted and who they took, ultimately they've got to be pretty satisfied with the results from this year's rookie class. Um, as we look at the lottery for this season, not a lot of movement, but the loss on Tuesday does mean that it's a lock that the Pelicans will go into the May 12th draft lottery with the slot of either 3, 4, 5. Those are the only spots that they can get at this point: 3, 4, 5. Can't fall into 6. So the only teams that they can either catch or fall back to is the Charlotte Hornets at 19 wins, with 3 games left in the season. The Pelicans with 21 wins, and the Philadelphia 76ers with 23 wins. So the Pelicans will have to lose 2 out of 3. Probably will lose all 3, and then have Philly. Um, Pelicans have to win, excuse me, win 2 or 3 games and have Philly lose the rest of the way. Or the Pelicans have to lose the rest of the games and have the Charlotte Hornets win a few games. Neither of those scenarios seems likely. So I'd imagine the Pelicans are going to lock in at the 4th spot among the 14 teams that will be in the draft lottery. If 2 teams finish with the same record, the odds of those teams are added together and then divided by 2. So if the Pelicans and the Sixers end up with the same record, then their odds they'd smash them together and split it right down the middle. Um, Tiebreakers in that case do not apply. So the Pelicans swept the Sixers this season. That doesn't matter. There's no moving up in the odds in that regard. It's just purely by record. So if the Pelicans and the Sixers have the same record, odds smash together and split down into. All right. So Wednesday, off day for the Pelicans, but they will be back in action on Thursday, finishing up their series and their season on the road against the Milwaukee Bucks. So until then, y'all please hit the like button, comment, subscribe, put your questions below, and I'll answer them. Make sure you share it with other Pelicans fans. We've got great topics every day. And we try to give you as much insight on the basketball side as we can, as well as what's going on in the front office. And we'll do that throughout the offseason.